From the Standing Stone Farm Studio right outside downtown Nashville, it's time for the most ridiculous sports podcast in the world. So sit back, relax, and listen as Bobby Butler and Brandon Bond crack open a cold one and talk all things hockey, pop culture, and complain about everyday situations. It's the Pucks Out Podcast on the Penalty Box Radio Network.
Welcome into the most ridiculous podcast in sports and pop culture. I'm Bobby. He's Brandon.
Hello.
You can find us on the three majors of social media at Pucks Out Pod. Now let's crack open this cold beer and let's get after it. Ooh.
Right up in my face.
Pucks Out is powered by Mayday Brewery, the official beer of the Pucks Out podcast. Join them every Thursday at 6 p.m. for bingo night. Free entry. Head on over and win some prizes. Next month, they are also having Brews and Booze. Join them and show off your Halloween costume in their costume contest. Ooh. And it's 90s night. Mark your calendars for October 22nd. Feed America First will be hosting 90s Throwback Night with live music and great beer. I was there this weekend for their Jazz and Jambalaya event. Good food and it's good music. It was a pretty good time.
Yeah, I know it is. I know it's jambalaya because people were jamming, but it like makes me very uncomfortable because it seems like you're saying jambalaya as jambalaya, and I get that you're not, but it just every time you say it, I've like almost corrected you almost every single time.
Today we are starting our season preview of the divisions, and we are starting with the Atlantic Division. So we're very stat heavy the next 3 or 4 weeks. We're taking a small hiatus from the Summer of Bond.
Oh no!
But don't worry, I know you all have been waiting for it, and we will get back to it.
Fall of Bond will be upon us before we know it.
Soon it'll turn into the year. Then I don't know, probably the decade.
No, I think we'll be able to crank through it once we get to Brosnan.
Yeah, for sure. Don't forget to check us out on What a Maneuver and Patreon to support the show. How you doing this week, bud?
Pretty good. Had some peeps over this weekend, pooling it and whatnot. Hung out with the my niece spent the night, so we did fun little kid stuff. Donuts and swimming and pizza. She loved it, so we had a good time. Super pumped, bro. Headed up to University Park in Pennsylvania for the Penn State Auburn game. Yeah. So that's going to be sick. Then we're recording a day early next week. And then I am headed out to the beach for a few days. So
sounds good, man. Happy for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Lots of driving, though, to be had because I'm not even taking any time off of work for the Penn State game. So we're leaving headed to Cincinnati right after I get off on Friday, waking up that next morning, headed up to Pennsylvania for the game, then driving out about an hour towards Cincinnati, spending the night, waking up, going back to Cincinnati, and then we are back here that Sunday. So lots of driving. Not looking forward to that. But other than that, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Celebrated my mom's 60th birthday, a smaller party this weekend.
Yeah.
It was a good time. Just, getting in the pool, some good food, a dope cake that my wife was able to procure. But all in all, it was a great weekend. Was
it Megan's version of procuring where she just went in and stole the cake?
No. She, for legal reasons, she doesn't do that.
Well, I mean, I didn't specify anything.
But
legal reason. Like, who's going to be like, oh, yeah, that's her. That was it. She did it. We finally know.
But no, she did not steal the cake.
Good.
But yeah,
good for you, Megan. Good
but
for you.
It was a good weekend. I got my first dose of the vaccine.
Nice.
So ready for that.
Dosing up.
Going to be ready for the hockey season.
I like it.
But all right, yeah. Let's go ahead and jump straight into the news.
Everything you need to know about what's happening on the ice. It's time for news from inside the boards.
Zach Parise, 37 years old, signs with the Islanders. The forward had his 13-year, $98 million contract bought out by the Wild in July, making him a unrestricted free agent. Details of the Islanders contract not yet disclosed as of writing this up yesterday.
Is that accurate? Parise?
Parise.
Parise. Well, one of the two.
One of the two.
You definitely read the E, whether it sounded like an
you
A.
You never really
or
know.
E.
Sometimes it depends. I've never actually heard.
Well, that's why. To be fair, I did ask. I was like, "Is that?"
I have no idea.
Yeah.
What did I say? Just Parise?
Yeah, Parise.
Or you just don't even say that.
It'd be like Paris.
Maybe it's just Paris.
Zach Paris. He's French.
But it very likely $750,000 cap hit with some bonuses on there. But he is back where he started his career, and I believe where his dad was a all-time great Islander, I think. And I remember there being some drama with him on draft night, like Mike Milbury, I think.
Not Milbury. He never has drama.
The Flyers ignore all of human history and have asked the fans to make submissions for their new goal song to be used this season. The organization will select several of their favorite from the selection and let fans have the final vote. So at least
it's gonna be Goalie McGoal.
Yeah,
goal song. Yeah. I mean, for sure. That's
what
nobody learns.
Yeah, no,
nobody learns. I mean, look, at least Washington did it right, where they're like, look, we're gonna give you some options, and not a write-in section.
Yeah,
I mean, but you would have to imagine that this is a little bit different because most of the things that people are requested to vote on don't really mean anything. Like when they wanted to name what was it, England, when they named that boat Boaty McBoatface. Yeah. Nobody cares what the boat's name is. Although everybody that's not a Flyers fan, you said Flyers, right?
Yeah.
Not a Flyers fan though.
And it's not. You can go on like
that's what I'm saying.
The link
everybody
to submit your own. We will
fan.
Have that in our show description. And I hope that they go off like the top 5 or 6 of writing ones. I just hope that their new goal song is WAP from Cardi B.
Okay. That's a little, I personally never going to give you up, Rick Astley, dude. That is going to be my vote.
Or just everyone goes in there and puts their own team's song. So they end up having to use the Penguins a goal song.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They just steal somebody else's. Parise's father, JP, and also it's so weird because he doesn't have the little accent mark over the E, but apparently his father does. Parise, so that would make it Parise, right? The little line over there. Why would you say maybe? Just agree.
You've got that line. The lines go different ways. I think one you roll.
Is there difference?
I think one you roll
but
and one you eliminate.
You don't know the difference of it. No. He played for Team Canada and for the Minnesota North Stars. So
for some reason I thought his dad played with the Islanders. When I was reading a quick article, it says there was some drama with his dad and the team.
Okay, maybe I'm seeing this. Zach Parise is hoping to follow in his father's Islanders footsteps. So maybe he played in multiple places, like some players.
But something happened on draft night where Mike Milbury, that's fans and wanted Mike Milbury to take him, and I think maybe he said screw the fans and did something weird.
Screw the fans.
Yeah.
He probably said it too, is the problem.
I think the fans were split because at the time I think Pierre Maguire was working as a commentator, and Pierre Maguire was like, I want them to take this guy, and Mike Milbury said, I'm not going to take him. So the fans were like, do we agree with Mike Milbury or Pierre Maguire? Where do we go with this?
The answer is you never agree with Mike Milbury. So
yeah,
that's just a pretty common thing.
Blue Jackets make coaching changes due to Lafayette. Lefebvre. Yeah, I think when I looked it up, it was Lefebvre. One of their assistant coaches was refusing to get the COVID-19 vaccination, so they've had to pull some coaches up from the AHL. But yeah, so there's going to be some. I'm not surprised. This is the first coaching change we've seen because of this.
I'm very intrigued that they're like, well, we got to pull a coach from the AHL like he's a play. Like you couldn't have just gone and hired another coach. Not that I'm saying the coach that they pulled isn't probably a good coach, but the way that they're phrasing this is odd. We had to go to the minors to get us a coach. Like, just hire a different guy if that's not your guy.
There are coaches available.
Yeah, like if this is the guy they wanted, great. They've hired this guy, from the AHL, awesome. Great hire if that's who they wanted. But to make it seem like they've just had to scrape from the bottom of the barrel and go to the AHL to get this guy, like, well, we didn't know what to do, so we went to some pee-wee hockey rinks. We found a dope coach.
They had to bring a Premier League coach over to try
exactly.
coaching. It's going to be a new Apple series.
Ted Lasso. You think he was available for some American hockey?
All right, let's jump into outside the NHL.
Now that you know what's happening inside the boards, time for the rest of the headlines with news from outside the boards.
One of my favorite weekends in all of sports has occurred.
Yes.
When the NFL kicks off, it's also signifying that hockey's not too far away, but it really starts my season of sports.
Yes.
So I'm excited. It was a great opening weekend.
Fiancé, wife, then decide that they hate us and don't know why they've chosen to be with us at this point, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, several of my, Washington lost, so that was sad.
Titans lost.
Lost.
Well, at least Washington lost, a game.
Yeah, they made it a game.
Did the Titans know that they had a game?
I don't think so.
I mean, it was not very clear. I do like your question. Surprises. I want to kind of expand that into, we picked our divisional winners, just early picks last week. I want you to tell me the one that you picked that you are the least excited about, and then the one that you picked that you were, told you. Because I think we both had a couple of those. I feel stupid. I'll start with the one I feel stupid about. Of that, neither of us picked the Cardinals to win their division. They looked really, really good to me. And I think if I could go back and change, which we won't, if I could go back and change, I would say the Cardinals are going to win that division, NFC West.
Yeah, I still think that in the AFC North, the Browns looked really good against that Kansas City team. And honestly,
I wouldn't say that.
I'm not going to use the Chiefs as I told you so. I think I'm still going to stick with the Browns as the told you so team.
No, I think
they looked phenomenal against. They were down one of their major playmakers.
You're more. I can definitely. Well, and see, that's funny because mine that I'm sticking by as well is the Steelers, and I was. So that's funny that we picked the same one, and I definitely don't. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, my team's 1-0 and yours is 0-1, although that is the case for that particular division. No, the Browns did look good. I mean, it's just
they just had a. The Chiefs are the Chiefs.
Chiefs are just the Chiefs. So which one that you are?
I gotta be honest.
You didn't go a different direction on.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go Titans. Honestly, I
didn't think the rest of their division looked good.
Only because I'm looking at the rest of these. I still am confident in the Packers. Still confident in the Bucks.
You're confident in Washington over Dallas right now. That would be my one because at least the rest of the AFC South looked bad as well. I mean, we have a division winner, right?
Again, I know you don't bet on injury, but when it's coming down to this, I don't think Dak Prescott's making it half a season. So with that said,
last season was the only season he ever missed time.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah.
But I know what happens. I know what happens with mobile quarterbacks when they start getting hurt. It is a slippery slope. I mean, it happens, and
slippery slope argument, huh? He's not super. I mean, he's mobile, but he's not a mobile. He's more of a pocket passer.
Also, because I watched that game, their offensive line didn't look optimal.
That's not a fair assessment from one of the best offensive lines in the league right now.
Again, it's week one. Obviously, we're going to overreact. It's what you do after week one.
We got to.
I may come back next week after Washington plays the Giants, and I may say, you know what? I'm not confident in Washington going forward.
Right.
But, my homerism is going to last one more week to see, but the Titans looked not good. And
it was a combo that the Cardinals looked amazing, and then as you said, the Titans looked not good. Normally, I would... and I don't necessarily agree with your upcoming rant, but I would be stupid to sit here and argue with it. So I'll let you go ahead and do your favorite part of the year.
Yeah.
It happens once or twice every year where you get to have this conversation. So I'm going to let you have your glory right here. Go ahead.
Yeah. Listen, I love this rant. It is something that
One of your favorites of all time.
And that is, I'm going to talk about Taylor Lawan, probably one of my least favorite professional athletes in all of history. I've said it for years. The man is big for no reason. He is a liability on any team that he's going to play on. He's not good at being a professional football player. He doesn't even belong on the field. He got absolutely embarrassed by Chandler Jones. He got made to look like a little elementary student. Chandler Jones was a man. Taylor Lawan was a boy on Sunday. And the fact is, he makes, I think, he makes a ridiculously high salary. I believe he makes $11.6 million a year. He makes $11 million is what his salary is. And so this weekend, he got paid $322,000 per sack. Is how he was just a leaky sieve on Sunday. And frankly, over the offseason, he wanted to come out and say, oh, you know what? I was snubbed as a top 10 player in this league, and that's going to motivate me. First off, dude, come on. You're an offensive lineman. Offensive linemen shouldn't be mad because I got snubbed for top 10 player in the league. That's not what you do.
If we're saying your name as an offensive lineman, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
We should just literally not know that you exist.
Yes. Is he really going to sit there and say that there are not 9 other athletes in this league who deserve to be in the top 10? Like, come on.
I most certainly, we always discuss this. I do not disagree with your assessment of him as a person. I do not like him as a person either. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm with you on that. But it's, and it is very hard to argue with your assessment of his gameplay on Sunday. I can't. I don't have any defense. He's a Pro Bowl tackle that played like a elementary school. That was there. That's all there is to it. There is nothing that I can say to defend. I normally will, come and defend. Chandler Jones had a beastly game. No doubt, but you're a Pro Bowl left tackle.
Yeah. Your job is to make...
It was 3 sacks in the first quarter.
Your job is to make sure he doesn't have a great game. It's not like, in a receiver and a cornerback, the receiver's job is not to make sure the cornerback doesn't have a great game. The receiver's to make sure he has a great game. Your sole job as an offensive lineman is to make the defensive player not have a good game.
You let a guy get 3 sacks in the first quarter, but 5 total sacks on you. Isn't the sack record like... What is it, like 16 sacks or something?
In a game or a season?
NFL. No, not in the game. Do you think that there's somebody that had 16 sacks in a game, Bobby?
Bruh, there's been some great defensive linemen. Ray Lewis it was a player once. No, I can't remember. I think. So to answer a question that every time I have this rant, whether it's in person or whatever, everyone always asks me this. Well, could you do better?
That's a stupid. I have never said that.
No, you haven't, because you have a brain. Of course I don't. I'll make my argument based on. Yeah, I am clearly not going to do better. I am not paid millions of dollars. I am not. I didn't even play college ball.
Once they actually started, the sack became an official stat in 1982. So the unofficial all-time leader is Al Baker with 23. However, that happened in 78 before they actually counted the stat. The official leader is Michael Strahan with 22.5 in 2001. The next closest was Jared Allen with 22. And there's been a couple since then that had 22. But, 5 sacks. You're well on your way towards 22.
Yeah.
Chandler Jones is great. I don't think he's 5 sacks in a game great. Obviously he is.
Derek Thomas recorded 7 sacks versus the Seahawks in 1990 in a game.
Yeah, it wasn't the single season sack. It was the first time that 3 sacks had been recorded in the first quarter, I believe.
Yeah.
So no defenses on this side of the table.
But like I was saying, if you're the kind of person that's going to sit there and say, well, why don't you try and do better? I'm not an NFL player. My job is not to do that. I'm doing my job of criticizing Taylor Lawan.
Right.
Like, and I'm doing a pretty damn good job of it.
If this podcast was only about criticizing Taylor Lawan,
I'm a Pro Bowl.
You would be no, Bobby. You wouldn't be Pro Bowl. You'd be all pro.
Yeah.
Okay. You'd be all pro.
I'd be Chandler
which is
Jones.
Different. You would be the Chandler Jones of this podcast. Okay. Trevor Lawrence, you have on here. 28 of 51, 332.
Yeah, he struggled, and that's why with Trevor Lawrence in the Jags, honestly, he showed sparks of being he's a good quarterback, and we talked about it last week.
He has to play for Urban Meyer.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that accounts. But like, so I watched a good bit. I watched the highlights of that game. He had 332 yards.
You watched the Texans highlights of the game.
Yes. But he had 2 long passes just straight up dropped in the end zone. He put the ball on the money, and they just
a lot of those 332 were junk time yards though. So
and the reason I bring this up is because last week I said that he'd break Andrew Luck's record. Andrew Luck had a lot of garbage time yards too, because I think as a quarterback, if you're going to break that record, you're going to have some garbage time playing from behind yards.
Sure. I don't know. I thought Andrew Luck's first season was a good I thought they had a good year. I want to say. I do not see that. I think that it's going to be amazing if he's healthy all year. He was getting wrecked a couple of times. I just don't see that as a real option.
Yeah, I mean, after watching that game, if I needed to make a bet after watching the game, I wouldn't have gone with that. I mean, the fact is, his receivers blew a lot of routes. They dropped a lot of balls.
Because they're not that good. Okay, look, they have some decent receivers on the team. Don't get me wrong. I like DJ Chark. I like Marvin Jones Jr.
Or LaViscus.
Chanel, Chanel. I just do not. I mean, yeah, Andrew Luck's rookie year, 11-5. Okay. So I mean, they had a. So there.
I guess I was misremembering what year was his rookie year.
I mean, garbage time, maybe, but only because he was running up the score on folks. I'm guessing. I think that it's totally possible that your prediction comes to fruition. I mean, it's just a different league than it was in 2012. I think, number one, he's got to stay healthy that long. I mean, Joe Burrow was on pace to beat it last year and got shredded. Yeah. So I think that's going to be his biggest option. I don't think there was enough emphasis on James Robinson and what he can bring to the team. I don't think their offensive line is good. And I don't think their defense is that great. I mean, Houston is not that. They're better than we thought they were, but I still don't think they're a huge threat. Tyrod Taylor looked pretty good. Brandon
I was surprised at how Houston played.
I mean, Mark Ingram is back from the dead. But to be fair, David Johnson did that last year a couple games when he was there and then kind of fell off the map. I don't think Houston's that great. I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence. Sure.
It was his first game he's ever lost in his entire life.
Regular season game.
A regular season game. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah.
But I feel real good that it's happening to my boy Herb. So
yeah. Great Monday Night Football game last night. I don't think you got to watch it.
I was paying attention to
it was the best game of the week, without a doubt. It went to over. The Raiders tied it up 3 times to go to overtime. They won the coin toss, went down a long pass by Derek Carr to close out the game for a walk-off touchdown. Mm-hmm. Ended up getting called back on the 1-yard line. Then they threw it. The receiver tripped and fell. It bounced off his helmet. Ravens intercepted it in the end zone.
Oh, wow.
Ravens went all the way down. Lamar Jackson fumbled it. Raiders took it back down. And this was after a Raiders 55-yard field goal to take it to overtime, first off. And it was a great game. Some obviously right when you thought the Raiders were having a meltdown, the Ravens had their own meltdown, and it was fun football.
I think that one thing that we can say is that we made pretty solid choices for the AFC North. I do not think that the Ravens are going to be the Ravens that we've seen the past couple years.
No, I don't think they're going to rely too heavy on Lamar Jackson, and I don't think he can do it all himself.
No, I agree with that.
And honestly, watching that, his receivers, there was flashes, but man, they just were dropping so much. Mark Andrews was dropping stuff, which I was happy about because I needed him to not have a good night.
I know.
I was watching when it went to overtime. I was like,
Bobby, let's talk about what happened. I have not brought up fantasy, okay? You rocked me, bro. Good. It
was a good matchup.
It was a good matchup. I had some downfalls, but I'm not here to make excuses for me and Bill Cosby sleepers. Okay, you beat me straight up. Good win for you, man.
But all right, let's move in. We are going to be doing our season preview for the Atlantic Division. So let's start off with the Florida Panthers. Last season, they went 37-14-5 with 79 points. Second in the Central Division, and they lost 4-2 to the eventual champions Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round. Significant gains this year, Sammy Reinhart. Their losses, Alexander Wenberg, Keith Yandel, and Chris Driedger. Some notes I have on the Florida Panthers. Panthers saw a first-round exit last season in 6 games against the eventual champs. It was their first playoff in 5 years, finished second in the Central. Joel Quenneville looks to lead them to further success in his first full season as the head coach. They signed Joe Thornton as a free agent in August. He'll probably slot into the 3rd or 4th line. Sammy Reinhart is inked a 3-year deal in the offseason, playing right wing alongside Barkov and Verhaeghe. I think is that how you pronounce it? Verhaeghe?
See, you never take my advice, Bobby, because you just gotta say it and never question the answer that you're throwing out there. I don't know how to say
Verhaeghe. Jonathan Huberdeau will continue to use his speed to help Bennett and Tony Duclair. I know it's Anthony Duclair, but I'm calling him Tony Duclair. Oh. If you're a hockey player, it's not Anthony. It's all Tony.
Hey, yo, Tony.
Yeah, hopefully they'll bring the game up. Huberdeau was one of just 12 players who managed to surpass the 60-point plateau during the shortened 56-game season. Mackenzie Wieger exploded on offense last season, nearly doubling his point production all time in one season. Ekblad was sidelined in the postseason after suffering an injury in March.
Yeah, that was rough for them for sure.
With his return and Wieger's game elevated, the number one D pair pose a big threat on the blue line. They've got incredible talent. I have large expectations for them. There are some concerns, though. Goaltending, they've had inconsistent play by Bobrovsky. Even with his troubles, the Panthers finished 7th with a .910 save percentage and ranked 9th in goals against per game, 2.7. Driedger, who looked good, he ended up getting picked by the Kraken. Knight will get to be their backup this season. The 20-year-old netminder showcased plenty of potential last year and could end up stealing starts from Bob. My outlook as far as this season, I think they sneak into the playoffs, but I think they're going to get knocked out in the first round.
I agree. I think I've been saying all throughout the offseason that I'm not as high on Florida as a lot of folks are. I mean, Justin Bradford is. He thinks Florida's going to be great, and it's one of those things that could totally happen. I just don't see it. I don't feel it. I do really like the addition of Sammy Reinhart. I think that is going to be a great move. And I think that's going to be good for Sammy Reinhart's fantasy value as well. I'm with you. I think that they do make the playoffs back into the regular alignment, divisional alignment. I don't have high hopes for him. I'm a lot like you. I think Bob does have a pretty decent year, though. I think he'll have a decent year.
I think I will
just
too.
Don't. And also Bobrovsky. Not only Bob. I'm hoping that you don't have the best year of your life, because that means that you're just going to be able to talk smack about Taylor Lawan all year, which is where you make your money.
Next week he lets up 23 sacks in a game.
That's Bob's bread and butter. Okay. I think they have some serious talent, though. I mean, Huberdeau, Barkov, I mean, these are guys that that can be dangerous. And if I'm wrong and they are a dominant team, I will not be surprised. But we will see. We'll see with Florida. I think that they have gone into a much tougher spot, though, going back into the Atlantic, in my opinion.
Yeah. The Boston Bruins, 33, 16, and 7 last season with 73 points. Third in the Eastern Division, lost 4-2 to the Islanders in the second round. There's significant gains this year. Linus Ullmark, Nick Foligno, Eric Walla, Thomas Nosek, Derek Forbor. Losses, David Krejci, I think he's going back to the Czech Republic to play. Nick Ritchie and Jeremy Lauzon. I've got their top line of Marchand, Pasta, and Bergeron remains probably without the strongest part of their roster and probably one of the strongest lines in the league.
I would say that's hard to argue with.
Boston tied for the fourth best goals against per game at 2.39 and had one of the second best penalty kills at 86% during last season. Taylor Hall and Craig Smith brought some much needed secondary scoring. Are some concerns. Need to get out to a hot start with Pasta being out for the first month. They have to fill a hole with the leaving of Krejci, who has been their steadiest source of production beyond the first line for a good couple seasons now. Depth up front and on the back end remain question marks for Boston entering this year. Goaltending, Tuukka Rask to be out until December. Ullmark will need to step up after signing a 4-year contract. My outlook for them, I believe that this Boston team with that front line, they are going to be in the talks for a Stanley Cup final run. But that window is closing.
That's just generally not them, huh?
But their window is closing. I think they'll get in as the 4th seed, and whoever that first seed in that division is gonna not like life that they've got to go against.
So you think they'll be a wild card?
Yes.
Team. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a hard time placing Boston as a wild card team, especially in this division. Because I'm not high on the Panthers. I think that if a team from this division would be a wild card team, it's probably going to be Florida over Boston. The Atlantic is strong though. It's going to be hard pressed for Boston. I really love the addition of Foligno and Howla. I think that is a much needed piece of grit that they're going to be able to add to their squad. I like Boston this year. As you've said, one of the best lines in hockey, especially team-wise. I think that they'll slide into that 3rd spot, but if what you said is true and they go the wild card, I would not be surprised. I mean, this is a strong division this year for sure, especially with the moves that a couple of these other teams that we're going to talk about in a little bit have made. And obviously having the reigning champ there, I mean, this will be probably one of my favorite divisions to watch if we're being honest.
For sure.
I mean, the intrigue of this division with Florida and Boston and Toronto and Tampa and Montreal. I mean, these are all teams that in their respective divisions did really well last year in the divisional mix-up. So I'm interested to see kind of how this shakes out. But I'm with you on Boston. I think it's it could go either way. Seriously.
The Toronto Maple Leafs. 35, 14, and 7 last season with 77 points. First in the North Division. They lost 4-3 to the Canadiens in the first round. Their gains, Nick Ritchie, Michael Bunting, Andre Kass, and Peter Mrazek. Their losses, Zach Hyman, Zach Bogosian, and Joe Thornton. Let's see. 5th most goals in the league at 186 last season. Austin Matthews led all players with 41 in 52 games. Jack Campbell starred for the team between the pipes, and the team signed Mrazek in the offseason to share crease duties with him in this campaign. Since Sheldon Keefe's arrival behind the bench, Marner has produced better with Matthews, and the defense has stepped up, tying for 6th best goals against last season, 2.64, even in a very score-heavy Northern Division. Obviously, there are some concerns. Very top-heavy offense, and the amount of salary cap space they take up not much room to work with. With Hyman to Edmonton via free agency, Ritchie, Cass, and Bunting are the last affordable arrivals who will land in the top 6 more than likely. Their penalty kill will need to improve from 24th overall last season at 78.5. My outlook, knocked out in the second round of the playoffs.
Oh, you think they're gonna win a round? Okay. Me personally, I also want to throw in a little fun stat. You know that that Austin Matthews is the first ever Rocket Richard winner to win the award without an empty net goal. Pretty cool,
That's
huh?
wild.
Yeah, I mean, first ever. You would imagine that would have happened before now, but I mean, as far as team wise and what they're putting on the ice, and you got guys like Matthews and Nylander and Marner, and when Tavares can get back, it's hard to think that they're gonna not be Toronto. They still are the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? I mean, I really like the addition of Ritchie and Andre Casa, and I love Mrazek. I don't think they're going to win a playoff round. I think that they'll be fighting for a playoff spot. I think that they should be able to get one. I would imagine that it is more than likely going to be a wild card spot, but they play great in the regular season. That's not their problem. They can't hold it together in the playoffs, and I don't see what makes me think that this year is any different for them. Matthews is phenomenal. Marner is phenomenal. Nylander, phenomenal. I mean, this is they've been this way for a while. There's no question on that. It's just you got to show me that you can do it before I'm just gonna deem you the champion.
Yeah. Speaking of phenomenal, Tampa Bay Lightning.
Who?
36-17-3 last season with 75 points, third in the Central Division. Won, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. There are significant gains. Corey Perry, boo. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, Zach Bogosian, and Brian Elliott. Their losses, Yanni Gourde, Blake Coleman, Barclay Goodrow, David Savard, and Tyler Johnson.
That is a laundry list of significant losses there for sure.
They still have a crap ton of talent on their team.
Absolutely, yeah. Those are a lot of pieces that are very valuable to their cup win. And they've still got it flowing out of everywhere. Yeah. So I mean, it's hard to see. The
back-to-back champs have talent. They've got talent over. Got Kucherov led the playoffs in scoring after missing the entire season. He'll be back in the lineup this season with Point and Palat. Hedman will control a strong defensive core, which remains unchanged, and they they got Bogosian back, who was injured with a shoulder injury. Vasi was the runner-up for the Vezina and took home the Conn Smythe. Still remains the best fantasy goaltender and probably the best, and without doubt the best goaltender in the game right now. They shored up their backup situation with Elliott behind him. It was hard to find some concerns for this team, but to be fair, have to find something. Depth concerns up front for the first time in a while after losing every member of the team's third line during the offseason. Gourde, the Kraken via expansion. Gaudreau traded to the Rangers. Coleman joined the Flames via free agency, and Johnson was traded for cap relief. They will need Perry, Colton, and Matthew Joseph to step up. Outlook, high chance at competing for a three-peat.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say they won't. It'll be interesting to see. I'm not saying they have. Their two wins have come in 2 non-82 game seasons.
Yeah,
that would be my concern with this team three-peating. If this season goes 82 games, that's where they've always struggled, is injuries at the wrong time and not being able to push through. They push so hard all year, all season, and look really great, and then they've kind of fell off towards the playoff time. I don't know if it's they're tired or the injuries have caught up with them. So I will be interested to see what can happen in an 82-game season, because they have won 2 cups back-to-back on shortened 50-some-odd game seasons, which this team is built for.
Do you think this is going to be a full 82-game season with Delta variant raging as it is?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the country, the owners, the league has spoken. You know, there is an available vaccine at this point that they can point to, though.
Yeah.
You can be vaccinated and still get the Delta variant and all that good stuff. But I mean, we're seeing coaches get fired and let go because they refuse to get the I think especially if the NHL allows for legitimate suspensions for not getting the vaccine, I think it's going to be an 82-game season. I think that rich people want to keep getting rich, and at this point they say most people in the country don't care. Why should I? I'm going to let it play out. Do I know that for sure? No, absolutely not. But it's a great question, and I think absolutely. I think we'll see some canceled games here and there or something.
Yeah, some rescheduled.
I think we're much more likely to go into a situation where just no fans are allowed than we do the season ending.
Yeah.
You know, we know a lot more about it than we did when we were headed up to Columbus. Isn't that crazy that about a year and a half ago, about 2 months into us doing this podcast, we were headed up to Columbus to watch a Preds Blue Jackets game, and that's when it began.
Yeah.
Right there. That's crazy to think about, man. Yeah. It's just part of a life now.
Yeah.
You know?
The Montreal Canadiens, fourth in the North Division, lost 4-1 to Tampa.
You have skipped one.
Oh, yeah, I did skip the Ottawa Senators.
I mean, you didn't really skip them, but I mean, we should talk about them. They are on the list.
So they weren't in last place in the division, so they're not the worst. Ottawa Senators 23-28-5 with 51 points, sixth in the North Division, did not make the playoffs. Significant gains, Nick Holden, losses, Evgeny Dadonov. There's actually a good bit of concerns, but also a good bit of good things. They lost 21 of their first 30 games last season, but then they went 14-8-4 in their final 26 games to finish ahead of the Canucks in the North Division and finish above expectations. With the hiring of Pierre McGuire as the new senior VP of player development, it's hard to know what to expect going forward. I think it's going to be a lot of chaos going on there. The young guys in Ottawa took a step forward last season. Brady Tkachuk and Connor Brown led the Sens in scoring for the second straight season with 36 and 35 points respectively. Josh Norris and Drake Batherson each hit the 30-point plateau, and 2020 third overall pick Tim Stützle followed up a great World Juniors Championship performance with 29 points in 53 games and a ninth place finish in the Calder Trophy voting. Clearly, there are some concerns with this team. Defense and goaltending, league's fourth most goals allowed at 189 and fourth worst save percentage at .895. Tomas Chabot is really the only bright spot on their blue line. Matt Murray, first season of his $25 million contract, was filled with injuries and a .893 save percentage and had to use 4 different goalie replacements throughout the season. Outlook, they're still very early in their rebuild. Expect nothing good for a bit longer. They'll be fun and they'll have some highlights from Stützle, but they'll miss the playoffs by a large margin.
I disagree. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to miss it by a large margin, though. I think last month of the season, they will still be in the hunt. Okay. I liked a lot of their youth. I think that the allowing of so many goals was based on having to play in that Scotia North Division last season. There were so many goals scored in that season, but against everybody, not just them. I think they definitely have some bright spots there. I think you've highlighted Thomas Chabot is a fantastic blue liner. I'm never been a huge Murray fan, but I think he kind of got shafted a little bit last year by having to take on some of the better goal scorers in the league constantly.
He didn't look good his final year in Pittsburgh either, though.
No, and obviously that's what I'm saying. I'm not a huge fan, but I don't think he was as bad as we are seeing. It took them a little bit to kind of get it going. I think Josh Norris, and I used him as an option to pick up a lot in fantasy, as a streaming option. There was a couple of teams that I picked him up and actually kept him long term. I think that there's some definitely some good options there in Ottawa, and I don't think that they will be. I don't even think they'll be in the playoff hunt. I just don't think they'll be necessarily out of it.
Okay. So really, we're probably disagreeing by 3 games. 3
yeah,
or 4
we're
games.
closer.
I think they're going to be like 12 games out.
Yeah, we're closer than we think. I don't think that they're going to be good. I just don't think they're going to be that atrocious.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't think anyone's like they're in the middle. They're early in a rebuild. I don't think anyone's expecting them to.
No.
And frankly, the fans shouldn't want them to be making the playoffs. You need a couple more seasons of those good draft picks.
Yeah.
If they go out and they make it into the playoffs, then the fans should be like, crap. Now we're in that limbo zone.
Yeah, and especially in a hockey town like Ottawa, it's not Nashville. Where even though we're rebuilding, we, as
fans
a city still want to make that playoffs to keep interest, to garner interest. I think that we're closer than we think. I just don't think that they're that, we're playing Ottawa, chalk up the W type of team that they have been the last couple of seasons.
Very rarely in the NHL should teams do that. I mean, unless they're playing like Detroit 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, but even then, the Predators would, yeah, exactly. So I think that they're going to be okay. I think that the division that they're going to be playing in is going to be better for them than the one that they had to play in last season.
All right, now on to the Montreal Canadiens, 4th in the North Division last season, lost 4-1 to the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stanley Cup Final. Significant gains: Mike Hoffman, Cedric Paquette, David Savard. Significant losses: Philly Deneau, Corey Perry, and Shea Weber. Let me scroll down to them. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and Tyler Toffoli have been the backbone of this team's offense, and they will probably form the top line for the Habs this campaign, and they are what helped the Habs in their Cinderella run to the Stanley Cup Final against the Lightning. They came out on top of the Kotkaniemi transaction. Carey Price, 34 now, seems to be improving from his past couple seasons. Obviously, some concerns. Offensive struggles, ranked 17th in goals per game last season, 2.82, and 17th in power play percentage at 19.2. Their depth down the middle, Dvorak is not Deneau, and who was traded to the Kings. And I think losing Deneau is a big hit for them. With Byron, Weber, and Deneau out, their penalty kill is going to suffer. My outlook is don't expect a long run. I think last season was a fluke. I could see them being a 1-round and done team.
And a significant loss, in my opinion, that you did not mention. Jesperi Kotkaniemi going to Carolina.
Well, I said, I guess it's going to be a loss. I did say they came out on top of that transaction.
Sure, you can come on, but I mean,
it's still a loss.
I think that he's still young. I mean, he could go into Carolina and make a significant.
I think he will. I think he's a good player, but I think that what they got back for him makes up for
I don't disagree with that, but I mean, you never know.
Yeah,
until
obviously
it happens. I don't disagree with you on the. I think that it was a flash in the pan, and it just worked.
Yeah.
And it worked in a situation that they needed it to happen. I think they took advantage of that of the curse on the Maple Leafs and just rode that wave. That I mean, we continued to say, well, this is the time that they'll lose. This is the matchup that they'll lose. And it wasn't until they came up against the Lightning that they really got exposed, in my opinion. I think they'll be a decent team. I think they'll be fighting for a playoff spot. Yeah,
I could see them. Yeah, I like I said, I think they're going to knock out in the first round. But let's move on to the Detroit. 19, 27, and 10 with 48 points, 7th in the Central Division, did not make the playoffs. Significant gains: Alex Nedeljkovic, Piotr Suter, Nick Leddy. Significant losses: Valtieri Filppula. At first I was like, maybe I pronounced the name wrong. That's his name. And I wasn't even messing around with that one. Good core of young players led by Larkin, Bertuzzi, and Vrana. That could be their team's top line. Suter signed following good first year in Chicago, could center the second line. The acquisition of Nedeljkovic was great. He was great in Carolina during his rookie season and came in third for the Calder Trophy voting. Obviously, we're talking about Detroit. These last couple seasons, there's going to be concerns. Offensive struggles, placing 30th in goals per game played, 2.23, and 30th in power play percentage, 11.4, which was worse than the Preds' power play percentage.
Which is, that's saying something.
Yeah.
Yes.
The team, they need to see more from Zadina if they really wanted to. I think we're going to see a slight improvement in their team, but I think they're going to miss the playoffs again.
Yes. Yeah. I think that they'll be behind Ottawa, in my opinion.
Okay.
And you got to see something from Larkin this year.
Absolutely.
And not only even if they still play poorly this season and don't do well, I mean, you can still argue that they're still in a rebuild. I think that this is make or break for Larkin at this point. You know, he's been given his time to be young, to be not the guy. So I think that they definitely need to see something from Larkin this year, or they got to move on, in my opinion, and find a new face. Because, I mean, am I wrong in saying that Larkin is their face of their franchise that they want to build around?
Either them or the Little Caesars guy.
Fair. That is fair. I think they have some great options here. I mean, Bertuzzi is a great player. I mean, you know, Fabry is a good player. They got some good options here. They definitely need to show something this year. They don't need to make the playoffs, in my opinion.
They just need to improve.
They need to show,
and not marginally. They need to show some real improvement.
Yes, and there needs to be an improvement. Exactly as you said, it doesn't need to be marginal. I'm not even saying they have to blow their record that they had last year percentage-wise out of the water. We need to be able to measurably see that the team is different.
Yeah.
Oh, they're losing some.
That their rebuild is on track. Because right now they've seemed like they're off the tracks.
Exactly. They've lost, they lost just as many as they lost last year percentage-wise. But it was a bunch of 1 and 2 goal games where they were in it until the end. I don't think that it's fair to say, oh, well, you have to, you know, up your wins and losses by this many percentage points. But you arguably have to see something from these guys that you're building this rebuild on, right? Yeah. I mean, you got to see something from Dylan Larkin, who is a great hockey player, or you got to get something for him before it's too late, in my opinion.
Yeah. We're going to round it out now with the Buffalo Sabres. Worst, let me go back to their stats for this year. 15, 34, and 7 with 37 points. 8th in the East Division, did not make the playoffs. Significant gains: Vinny Hinostroza, Robert Hagg, Will Butcher, Craig Anderson. Their losses: Sammy Reinhart, Linus Ullmark, Rasmus Ristolainen, Jake McCabe, and probably be here soon, Jack Eichel.
Like, you didn't add.
Worst record in the NHL this season doesn't look much better for them. Reinhart and Ristolainen have been traded. Jack Eichel remains in purgatory for now. The return they get for Eichel could change the trajectory of this team. The young talent of Dahlin, Middlestat, and Cozens mixed with the recent selection of Owen Powers, who was the first overall, that could be what this team needs to turn things around in the next several years. I mean, obviously, all concerns with this team, but offense, the Sabres finished tied for the third fewest goals per game at 2.39 last season. Reinhart led the team in goals at 25. He's gone. He had 40 points, and he led the team in shots at 130. Defense tied for the second most goals allowed per game at 3.5. Ullmark gave them a shot when in net, but he's gone now. His replacements of Anderson, Arundel, Dustin Tokarski, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen don't look good.
I love Craig Anderson. I think he's great. I think he's a little past his time, and I don't think that is going to be. There's not a lot of value on this squad.
The outlook I have, bottom of the league again. Maybe they finish. What is it now? 31 teams. Maybe they finish 30.
I thought it was 32.
32. So maybe they finish 31st. Maybe. But I don't see
who's going behind them.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I mean, maybe
I wouldn't say that to any team.
Maybe there's a race to the bottom with them in Ottawa.
They would have to completely change everything about everything that they do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is It is not only a player.
It's
not only a players. It's not only a skill set that guys have. It is a cultural issue in Buffalo at this point. They were arguably set up to go really far last year. Maybe not a Stanley Cup winner, but most certainly going to the playoffs, right? I mean, most people predicted that they would be right there in that hunt, and they just cannot get it together. Jack Eichel is great, but I mean, is he? I'm not really sure. He's not able to lead that team. He's a much better version of what I see from Detroit and Dylan Larkin.
Yeah, I don't think Jack Eichel is a leader. He's a showman. He's a playmaker. He's not there to. He shouldn't be leading a locker room. He should be on a team where he can just perform on ice.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around that, because you think of those superstar players, those generational talents, which I would consider Jack Eichel to be, as just natural born leaders, and that's not always the case.
No.
And it's hard to wrap your head around that. And as Buffalo, you may be better served to not have a superstar like Jack Eichel and trade him for picks and a leader and an actual leader of that team. That is one thing. I mean, everybody was hyping up, us included. Oh, Taylor Hall's there now, and you have all these pieces there, but it was just Taylor Hall's also, in my opinion, not that leader that guides his team to a championship. And maybe we're wrong. Maybe it truly is organizational, and Buffalo is causing, Jack Eichel to not reach his full potential. But until Jack Eichel's gone from there, we can only make predictions and say from what we see.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about Patrick Laine in this way. At some point, it becomes the guy and not the organization, right? And so I would be very intrigued. I would love personally to see Jack Eichel suck it up and go out and play for Buffalo this year and have a fantastic year. Maybe not make the playoffs, but kind of show folks like, hey, we can turn this around.
I don't think it's happening. I'd be surprised if he starts the year in Buffalo.
I don't think that it's happening either. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But I would love to see that. I mean, he has a real opportunity to do that. He's a good enough player to where we've seen teams do well with a guy that, everybody rallies around. Yeah. Are the Buffalo Sabres rallying around him? And it just doesn't seem like that's the case.
Yeah. All right, that wraps up our Atlantic Division of season preview. Next week we will hit the what is it? The Eastern?
Are we sticking in the
Metro?
East? The Metro.
Yeah, Metro.
Metropolitan.
Hit the Metro. So that should be a good one. But all right, guys, let's move on. We'll wrap up the show with what's snapping our stick.
Bobby and Brandon are about to find out exactly what snaps their sticks.
All right. I don't have anything really snap my stick this week. It's a good week. It's one of my, like I said in the beginning of the show, favorite week of the year.
You've really made me seem like a jerk. Because also I completely agree with what you've typed out in nothing. Life is good. First week of NFL. I have lots of driving coming up. So my complaint is that I have to drive to go see Penn State Auburn at Happy Valley, and then drive home, and then drive to Florida.
To be fair, though, what's happening is your life realized that you haven't driven much over the past year and a half because of COVID. So
shut up, Bobby.
You have to catch up on all your podcasts now.
I do. Wow, but I'll be riding with Stephanie. You think Stephanie wants to listen to all my podcasts?
Make her drive, though, on them headphones.
There we go. I probably won't do that. That seems really mean. But I may bring the old AirPods and pop those bad boys in. So I'm looking forward to it. I think that your answer sums it up. I mean, Mayday beer, talking hockey, football started. Life is good, brother.
Life is good. And we will see you guys next week.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Pucks Out Podcast. To see what other ridiculousness the guys are up to, check them out on Twitter and Instagram @PucksOutPod.